And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this very special segment today on the 24th day of January 2022. Well, supposed to be the first day back to school, but very soon the Premier will be joining. So as soon as he joins in, we'll interrupt our normal ones and we'll join in with the Premier right on this channel here. So you don't have to change channels. We will be joining with the Premier as soon as he comes on. But at the moment, what's been happening is many of the states are planning the way that they're going to do and how they're going to realize. But Queensland is to release its COVID plan for school soon. But will it include reds and masks for kids? Very soon we will be finding that out. So that's what I said. As soon as the Premier comes on live, we will cover. The key points are most Queensland students return to school from February 7. Schools will be open from today for children of essential workers. And New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania will offer free rapid antigen tests to children and teachers. And term 1 of the school was supposed to start today, but instead teachers and parents are waiting to find out, if students will need to wear masks and whether they will have to have regular COVID-19 tests when delayed face-to-face learning returns in 2 weeks. So these are some of the big questions that are on the board. And Queensland's back-to-school plan is expected to be discussed by Cabinet today as families brace for more disruptions, and children of those classes have really had their classes disrupted. Only the children of essential workers and those who are vulnerable are being supervised at schools from this week, after the state government delayed the start of the school because of the expected peak of Omicron outbreak, which is supposed to be happening now and into the early February. Remote learning will begin for Year 11 students and Year 12 students from January 31st. The same day, many private schools are kicking off home learning for all Year 12s. So, while all this is happening, there has been an announcement. The announcement which was made on Friday by Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk as he was about to release the back-to-school plan after State Cabinet meets today. So, and as soon as she goes live, we will be joining in as well. So Ms. Palaszczuk downplayed the need for rapid antigen testing. Let me say this, there is no health advice that the AHPPC, Australian Health Protection and Principal Committee, has not been advised that there needs to be testing of children at this stage, she said. And when asked on Friday if face-to-face learning for Queensland students could be pushed back again, people said, why would we, start, or will it be pushed back again? The Premier replied, no, there is no further delay. But on Sunday, Health Minister Yvette Dart again signalled that Queensland would not require weekly testing of students and teachers. It is not a comfortable test at the best of times, and we don't believe at this stage it will be needed. Right now, the Premier is joining us, so we'll go to that release.
Facebook Live followers as well. In some news today, we have 10,212 new cases. That includes 3,615 rats. Tragically though, it's my sad duty to report that 13 people have lost their lives, and once again we express our condolences to the families, and the Chief Health Officer will have more details about the age brackets, but they're all over their 70s. And he'll also have information about the numbers in hospital and the numbers in ICU. We've had 19,926 tests in the last 24 hours. 91.81% of eligible Queenslanders have had at least one dose, and 89.16% are now double vaccinated, but we expect those figures to come up a bit this afternoon. In good news, our 5 to 11-year-olds, 25.72% are now vaccinated. That's 123,119. We've got about 50,000 booked in. And now, if I can just stress to the families, we have 2 weeks now for your child to get vaccinated before school returns. And if you haven't got your child vaccinated, please come down here to the Brisbane Convention Centre. There's availability right now as we speak. And of course today...
And they seem to be having some issues there with the transmission, and as soon as they come back online, we will bring them back online there as well. So right now, let's take a look at what else is happening in other areas as well. First of all, let's go to New South Wales.
Part of that plan today involves providing rapid antigen tests for primary and secondary students and for teachers right across our state. We are currently distributing to over 3,000 schools across New South Wales, and as well all our early childhood education and childcare centres as well. We'll be providing rapid antigen tests for teachers in those early childhood and childcare settings, and then in both primary and secondary school, 2 rapid antigen tests per student per week, and in addition to that for teachers as well. In addition, we'll also be providing in similar settings to last year in relation to mask wearing for teachers and for students. Students mandated in secondary school, highly recommended for students year 3 and above. We'll obviously be having some of the same provisions such as class cohorting, in addition to that limiting visits to the school, and also ensuring COVID-safe plans for excursions and music and the like. These were a lot of these areas we put in place last year, but we want to ensure here in New South Wales that closing schools is the last resort, and we are incredibly confident. Now, whilst there will be disruption as we move through this period of time, and we know that as we move through this wave of the latest outbreak of COVID, that there will be challenges that come our way. But importantly, we need to make sure we have kids back in the classroom in a safe way. And I think the work that has occurred right here in our state with the Department of Education, it's been a significant effort, not just the acquisition of these rapid antigen tests, but also the distribution of those tests as we move through. And that will ensure that we have kids back in the classroom day 1, term 1, in a safe environment. And I know, as I said earlier, that many parents are anxious, but ultimately we know that kids do better in the classroom. We've had some students in our state who have already missed a quarter of their schooling. It's best for educational outcomes, it's best for mental health, and it's best for social outcomes as well. I particularly want to thank Premier Dan Andrews in Victoria and the Victorian Government for the close collaboration we've had here between New South Wales and Victoria. At very similar stages in this pandemic, we've shared information, we've collaborated in ways, we've learnt from each other in ensuring that we can do this in a COVID-safe way. The final point I'll make is in relation to boosters. Before Sarah Mitchell will also provide some further information in relation to the back-to-school plan. We still have significant capacity in our 40 hubs across the state to get people boosted. So far we're doing around 10,000 a day, and we have the capacity to do around 250,000 a week. As we move that period of time forward from 4 months to 3 months since your second dose vaccination, we now have substantial capacity for people right across our state to go out and get boosted. So if you haven't made an appointment with your GP or your pharmacist, please make an appointment in one of our hubs. The New South Wales Government and our health teams are here to support the federal rollout through GPs and pharmacists of that booster shot. It's incredibly important in keeping you, your friends and your family safe. We look across the last 2 years, look what has been our success here in our state. When it's come to our COVID response, it's been the effort that people have made day in, day out to go and get vaccinated, to take that booster shot. So a clear message today is we have to keep that effort up. We have to keep that.
The peak it's early, but the number of people in hospital appears to be significantly lower than we had expected at this stage. This, we believe, has to do with people's changing behaviour in avoiding getting infected. So I certainly thank the people of Queensland in heeding the warning. So it does appear at this stage that the number of hospitalisations is lower than we expected. I guess we won't know for another week or so when we hit the general peak for Queensland, and particularly for the southeast Queensland, exactly how high that peak of hospitalisations would be. But we were certainly anticipating several thousand people in hospital. We've got, as I said, 878 people in Queensland hospitals, Queensland public hospitals at the moment. We're collating the information about private hospitals. We do know there are a number of people in Queensland private hospitals. We'll have that later in the week, so we need to collate that from multiple smaller hospitals around the state. But again, just to remind everybody, the peak does not mean the end. That means the high point. The other thing I should draw everyone's attention to is that schools will be recommencing in 2 weeks' time, and it's likely that when that occurs, there will be a further probably extension of the peak. So it may well be that we have a longer, flatter period because of schools, which is really what is ideal, because the whole purpose of a lot of our measures has been to reduce the impact on the hospitals of Queensland, and at this stage Queensland hospitals are bearing up. But we'll see in the next 7 days, particularly as metropolitan Brisbane peaks, just exactly what happens there. So far, the impact of the epidemic is less than we expected so far in this wave. But it's still, I'm trying to be cautious here because we still haven't reached the peak here in Brisbane. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Premier. So I do want to remind Queenslanders, if you get a positive rapid antigen test at home, to register. There is some early information we're hearing that people are presenting in emergency departments saying that they've tested positive, but saying they hadn't registered that positive result. So we really do encourage people. I know that they're registering with the Commonwealth as far as any subsidies available, but it's still important to go onto the Queensland website and to register their positive test. In relation to the deaths today, again, our condolences to the families of those who have passed in relation to COVID. But I do want to point out that of those deaths so far, only 8.2% of our population over the age of 16 are unvaccinated. So they only make up just over 8% of our population currently, but they make up 21% of our people who have died with COVID. That's the unvaccinated people. And of course, the boosters, of the 111 deaths, we've only seen 5 people who have had their boosters. So it shows the benefit of vaccinations, and I strongly encourage people to come forward and get vaccinated. And I know the Deputy Commissioner is here to talk about vaccinations and our clinics. There's many, many clinics available, and of course pharmacies and GPs. I do want to specifically mention the boosters that are available from the 3-month mark from today. Also our 12 to 15-year-olds. I'm concerned that of our 12 to 15-year-olds, only 74.65% have had 1 dose and 66.61% double dose. Now, these teenagers will be going back to school face-to-face in a couple of weeks, and we're really concerned that those numbers are lower than what our adult vaccination rates are. They should be at the same rate now. The opportunity is there. It's great to see of our 5 to 11-year-olds that 1 in 4 are already vaccinated, but I'd love to see parents and guardians and carers coming forward with their children of all ages who are eligible and getting them vaccinated as quickly as possible before the start of the school year. Thank you.
Good morning. As both the Premier and the Minister have indicated, today is Booster Day. So anyone where it's been now 3 months since your second dose is eligible to come forward and get their booster today. What that means is there's 600,000 more people in Queensland today, right now, who are eligible to get their booster. So we know there's 1.2 million approximately people in Queensland right now who can come forward today and get their booster at any of our clinics. They can book into their primary care, their GPs or our community pharmacists. All of our clinics.
So there we are, up to date on Australian Indian Radio, and the boosters are available now for eligible people, as was mentioned. And of course, it is advisable for you to go and get your boosters done if you haven't. So we've been to New South Wales. We've seen what's happening right here in Queensland. What about Victoria? So let's give an update from Victoria.
For parents right across the state, we're just a little over a week away from the beginning of term 1, and we know that parents are very keen to have a sense of how schools are going to operate, and today we're able to provide clarity about the very detailed arrangements that we've put in place, the planning, the hard work, the positive partnership, particularly with New South Wales, to have pretty much identical arrangements in their schools and ours. We think that there's some strength, not just for our respective states, but there's strength for the nation in having the two biggest states on essentially the same footing. I spoke with Dominic Perrottet this morning and thanked him for the partnership and just acknowledged the amount of work that officials, James and his counterpart, myself and Dominic have done. It's really important, and you'll see, I hope, more of that. There's already been quite a lot of elements to that partnership, and I'm very grateful for it. Day 1, term 1 is very important. We want to have our kids back in the classrooms. We want kinder back. We want as little disruption to childcare. And that is a federally funded system, but it's one that we have assumed some responsibility for the purposes of this COVID safety. The features of school returning will be twice weekly rapid antigen testing. That surveillance testing is all about detecting cases, not necessarily every case. That would be almost impossible given the amount of transmission that's in the community, but it's about finding as many cases as we can and shutting down those chains of transmission. So the logic goes like this. We have to get schools back. Once they come back, given how much Omicron is in the community, there will be cases. The testing, free, at home, rapid antigen testing, and the Deputy Premier will speak to these arrangements in more detail in a moment, means that we will find more of those cases than if we were not testing, and then we will be able, through isolation and support to those families, we'll be able to reduce, by cutting off chains of transmission, the inevitable extra cases that would come if we weren't doing that testing. Testing is both a function of Victorian public health advice, common sense, and also about providing some reassurance that we're doing everything we can to make our schools as safe as they can be, but open on day 1 of term 1. You've heard the Deputy Premier speak.
So open on day 1 of term 1, and so that's the update there from Victoria. Well, South Australia, where the massive floods are happening, let's get a report from that area. And it has been noted that food supply and things would be, even more restrictive now in South Australia with this heavy deluge of rain, and many roads have been cut off there as well. And the floods have been breaking records. The amount of rain that has fallen has also broken many records of previous years and of previous months.
Post sticking out.
Trucks are really risking it, going through the flooded water, as the warning is. If it is flooded, forget it. Well, right now from South Australia, let's go to Tasmania, which is maybe a good story.
Final thread, putting the finishing touches on a knitted creation. But it hasn't always gone to plan.
I've unpicked a lot of the time because it hasn't looked quite right.
This group isn't knitting traditional scarves or beanies. What's being crafted here are body parts.
We chose as a group to knit a big mouth, to speak up and be loud.
Ladies are crocheting some breasts. One lady is doing a bottom, and we've also got some vaginas.
Participants are encouraged to knit, sew, sculpture or crochet parts of the body. And every bit has a story to tell.
I think women, or a lot of people in general, are very good at ignoring the things that are challenging and just ploughing on. And so having something like this makes you sit down and talk about it.
So sharing those stories is making an anchor to understand better what is happening to themselves.
For Ailey, who became a first-time mum during the pandemic, this project has been life-changing.
It's been a bit of a year of just having to say yes, so it's a hard thing to do when you're exhausted all the time. I was diagnosed with postnatal depression and postnatal anxiety, extreme in both senses.
Community centres all around Tasmania have been central hubs for women to come together and get crafty.
Space has just been a great place.
And crafty they are. It's a wonderful initiative there. Well, right now, on that top end of Australia, Northern Territory, where a housing project fails to meet safety standards.
When Laurie Montgomery moved into this affordable rental after leaving a relationship, she thought it was a perfect place to rebuild a life with her two daughters.
Kids used to all walk down the street and go to the park together, and it was great. It really felt like a nice little community.
But before long, that community fell to pieces. The ABC has spoken to several former residents who said their time in their houses was marred with problems, including leaks and water damage, water pooling beneath their homes and cracks forming in the walls.
What the f***?
It can now be revealed some residents were told they would need to evacuate if a cyclone warning was issued for Greater Darwin. In January 2020, affordable housing company Venture told tenants it had received engineering advice that the houses were not to be occupied if a cyclone occurred. It eventually decided to move them all out. A project meant to provide affordable housing for low and middle income earners now empty while repair work is carried out.
And there is such a shortage of housing here in Darwin.
And documents released to the ABC under Freedom of Information.
It's a great opportunity for our state. I think everyone knows that. It will open Brisbane and Queensland up to the world, and there's a lot of exciting things that are happening on that front. And of course, all of my team are excited about the possibilities and the opportunities that it presents to this state.
Last one.
Sorry? Be this month.
Thanks very much. Gotta go, Captain.
Sorry? Yeah, we're going to discuss that at Cabinet, look at the advice and everything. So it'll be announced this week. We've got a good 2 weeks until school goes back. In New South Wales and Victoria, their plans were released because they're actually going back. So there was urgency. But I want to make sure we get the plan right for Queenslanders. And as I said, there is no health advice at the moment that says that children need to be tested from either the Chief Health Officer or AHPPC. I want to consider that in detail and make sure we get it right for the parents and students of this state.
Okay, thanks very much.
Yeah, just a quick question. Yeah. We've got Cabinet.
So there are, ladies and gentlemen, headed from the Premier herself, and of course it will all be discussed in the Cabinet today. Well, right now, I'd like to take you to some of the functions and events that took place in the weekend. First one was the book launch by Utkat Naikar, and as we know that he led a very illustrious, we will get him here in the studio one day and talk about that, that he led a very illustrious life, lived, born and bred in Fiji, then he spent a fair bit of time in Bangkok, then 14 years in Nairobi, and of course being headhunted by United Nations, to be the secretariat there. What an amazing journey, and he's written a book, and it is a very, very thick book. So there's a lot of information on there. On touching on that also is his connection to back to India, so how he traced his roots there as well. But at the launch, so let's go to the launch. The book was officially launched by Sri Vijendra Kumarji, who we know is a very respected gentleman from Fiji, being the only person of Fiji origin, even in those times, to become the chief editor of the Fiji Times.
During the colonial days, and subsequently of an independent nation trying to build a new Fiji. Naikar himself played an important role in this. His 17 years with the United Nations have left clear footprints there, with his expert contribution on housing and land policies for the world's homeless poor. The housing model, based on enabling strategies that Mandir promoted in developing countries, is now universally accepted. The author has introduced several features in the book to make it easier for readers. He provides a comprehensive list of contents at the very beginning, a glossary to explain foreign terms and words, and explanation of abbreviated names and terms. I have now much pleasure in launching Utkat Naikar's book, Echoes from Fiji, Global Footprints of a Gurmit Grandson. There it is.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Ladies and gentlemen, now you see that we are so fortunate to be in the company of at least two giants of our community and who have attained a lot in their lifetimes. Now I think there is a cake in the shape of a book which will be cut.
This is the book, ladies and gentlemen.
And right now we'll be joined by the man himself, Utkat Naikar. I'm only bringing glimpses. We'll probably put this together as a whole show, and when we have Utkat here in the studios, and we'll be talking about that. Here's some of the things that he had to say.
Chairman of the board at that time, and this is a statement from myself. The other one is the UN certificate in French. Ian mentioned that I learned French. I had to learn French to become more versatile in my work, because all of that Western Africa speaks French. And then I have included some land policy advices. I know nobody bothers about land policy in Fiji, but someday somebody will, at least the civil society and the NGOs. I want to read it and draw something out of it. Then there is an article on non-CSR influence in Fiji. Actually, this was an article which I delivered thanks to Umesh Chandra here with the Gopio address, Gopio's Gurmit address around 2015 or so, where our friend Vijendra Kumar gave a speech earlier about the Gurmit, so I didn't want to repeat that, so I went on a slightly different slant. In that, apart from CSR, there were very many other influences, and these include not only Prince Philip and all these retailers that came, but also Emperor Gold Mines, Theodore, the town of Theodore in North Queensland. Mr. Theodore was the one, and Mr. Pekka, the people who started the Emperor Gold Mine. So gradually, actually, Fiji has become an economic colony of Australia. And there's the beginnings of it in there. Last thing in the appendix is an article I wrote for the Sangam organization here in Queensland about the origin of Sangam. But it just so happened the Sangam in Fiji liked it and included it in their annual magazine for one of the years. So I've included that too. I think I should stop there, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. I may have taken a bit of time.
So, as I mentioned, that we will probably bring to you the full coverage. We have the full video recording of that. The next was the Sthapna Divas of Sri Vishnu Mandir, the 5th Sthapna Divas. And as per the COVID protocols, the numbers had to be limited, but let's see what actually took place there.
प्रथमे गुरु जी को वंदना, दूसरे आदि गणेश, तीसरे श्रीदे शारदे मेरी कारज करो हमेश। धर्म गुरु पूजनीय पंडित जी, वंदनीय गुरु माता जी, सभी पुरोहितगण, भजन मंडली, पधारे हुए महानुभाव, मंदिर के सभी सहयोगीगण और आप सभी देव स्वरूप पधारे हुए भक्तजनों का मैं नमन, अभिनंदन और स्वागत करता हूँ। और आज इस भव्य मंदिर के 5वीं स्थापना दिवस के अवसर पर आप सभी ने समय निकालकर उपस्थित होने की कष्ट की, इसके लिए हम आप सभी के आभारी हैं। और आप सभी को आभार व्यक्त करते हुए एक बार फिर अपने हृदय से आप सभी को सुस्वागतम। तो इससे पहले कि हम आज का स्थापना दिवस का जो कार्यक्रम है,
So with the official welcoming and everything done, then we moved on to the special presentation for all the volunteers and supporters. This is just a few glimpses from there.
नंबर 8 पे है श्रीमती सांतांगी और उनकी बेटी पमेला और एंजेला के तरफ से और उनके परिवार की तरफ से हम सब जोरदार तालियों से इन सब परिवार को धन्यवाद और यही आशा करें कि परमात्मा की असीम कृपा इन सब परिवार पर बनी रहे।
अच्छा, शनील का नाम, शनील और देविका,
शनील और देविका।
And of course, that voice was of Devika Maharaj, who is a very good supporter of us and our program here as well. And so once again, it was a very good function. We will probably compile that once again. Right now, it's time to go to our daily India report, as we could not bring one on Saturday. So with that, let's welcome to Himanshu.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you glimpses of the changing India. In our first story, the Government of India has said 63% of healthcare workers, 58% frontline workers and 39% above 60 years of age have received the COVID precautionary jab in India. They aren't calling it the booster. The Government of India said about 63% of eligible healthcare workers, 58% of frontline workers and 39% of people above 60 years of age with comorbidities have received their precaution dose of COVID-19 vaccine. Union Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan said about 22.66 lakh of 35 lakh healthcare workers have received their precaution dose, accounting for 63% of such people. He said there are 33 lakh frontline workers who were due for precautionary dose and 191,400 have got this dose, which is 58%. Niti Aayog member Health Dr. V.K. Paul said there are still about 10 million people in the over 60 age group who are yet to get their first dose. Paul said there are still 65 million people whose second dose is overdue. The virtual Global Youth Conference marking Pravasi Bharatiya Divas 2022 focused on the role of diaspora youth in AKAM innovation and new technologies. Here's a special presentation by a key panelist, Bharat Sharma, founder and CEO of Monsoon Consulting.
Brand India is on the rise. We have CEOs in everywhere in the world, right from Microsoft to Adobe to Twitter. India is a great brand when it comes to innovation, technology. And obviously, we can do a lot better, and hence we are talking about it. How can we leverage our momentum and make that even better for all of us? And for youth from India, bar you are an innovator, you are entrepreneur or a skilled professional simply looking for a job. Only thing I would like to say is there is a lot of opportunity out here, and demand is absolutely outweighing the supply. We need work. Even person like myself and all of my colleague entrepreneurs in Europe, we are consistently looking for good people, good partner, good platform to work with.
India-UK free trade agreement talks will go very quickly and smoothly, claims a British politician. The negotiations between India and the UK to strike a free trade agreement launched in the second week of January 2022 will conclude quickly due to an absolute agreement at the senior political level. This is the claim from the Mayor for the West Midlands region of England, Andy Street, who is in charge of the West Midlands Combined Authority that covers some of England's major industrial hubs of Birmingham and Coventry, expects his region to reap huge benefits from such an FTA. UK International Trade Secretary Anne-Marie Trevelyan met her Indian counterpart, Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal in New Delhi to formally flag off the negotiations. Air India resumed its Boeing B777 aircraft flights to the United States following approval from the manufacturer that the jet was safe to fly despite the 5G mobile communication rollout. The 5G rollout was earlier said to have possible interference with flight altimeters. Air India said it has resumed 6 India-US flights on Boeing B777 aircraft after the plane manufacturer gave the clearance to operate them. The airline also said all flights to the US will normalize from 21st January 2022. Air India had cancelled 8 flights on the India-US routes on 19th January due to telecom companies rolling out 5G internet deployment across big cities in North America. 5G rollout was seen by some to potentially interfere with the aircraft's radio altimeters. However, the airline has issued a statement to the aforementioned publication saying, quote, Boeing has cleared Air India to operate in the USA on B777. Accordingly, the first flight has left this morning to JFK. Other flights leaving in the day are to Chicago and SFO. Arrangements to carry standard passengers are being worked out. Matter regarding B777 flying into the USA has been sorted, end quote. US aviation regulator Federal Aviation Administration in a fresh directive on January 20th said radio altimeters fitted in certain types of aircraft including B777 will not be affected by 5G services. There are currently over 300 other flights cancelled to and from the US due to issue pertaining to the rollout of 5G. Retail giant Walmart has invited select Indian sellers to apply to join Walmart Marketplace to sell their products in the US. Walmart, one of the largest discount department store chains of the USA, has invited select Indian sellers to join its marketplace that serves over 120 million shoppers monthly in the US. The company, which owns Flipkart in India, in a statement said India is already one of its top sourcing markets. Walmart has now targeted an ambitious goal of exporting $10 billion from India each year by 2027. Flipkart had 375,000 sellers on its marketplace till September 2021 and was expecting over 4,200,000 sellers by December. Walmart said inviting Indian sellers is part of its global drive to attract international sellers and expand the Walmart marketplace's product assortment. Selected sellers will benefit from Walmart fulfillment services, which allows them to use Walmart's warehousing and delivery infrastructure in the US, along with platform tools to streamline their operations and manage promotions and feedback. Walmart added that it shares US customer insights and global supply chain best practices and business planning strategies with its marketplace sellers to help them succeed in the US. The company said it has set up a dedicated cross-border trade team in India to help sellers onboard and grow on the platform. The team supports local sellers to meet applicable international regulations and Walmart responsible sourcing standards, develop new product lines and enhance their capabilities in packaging, marketing, supply chain management and more to upgrade their operations for export success. Delphi Leather India, Mahi Exports, Touchstone Gems and Jewelry and Wellspun are among Indian sellers on the Walmart marketplace currently. Walmart already runs its Vriddhi Supplier Development Program in India for Indian MSMEs to help them train for selling overseas and participate in the global supply chain. Launched in 2019, the program aims to directly train 50,000 Indian MSMEs with the business skills to succeed as suppliers to Walmart, Flipkart and other global marketplace platforms. India successfully tested new BrahMos missiles with advanced indigenous technologies. In related defense news, India has also selected Swedish defense company Saab's 84 weapon. India on January 20th successfully tested a variant of the BrahMos supersonic cruise missile with higher indigenous content and improved performance from the integrated test range at Chandipur off the Odisha state coast. The Indian Defence Ministry said the BrahMos missile, an Indo-Russian joint venture, has a range of 290 km and is the fastest cruise missile in the world with a top speed of Mach 2.8. Also, India has selected Swadeshi defence company Saab's 84 weapon for its army and air force after a competitive program for buying a single-shot weapon, the company announced. Operated by a single soldier, the 84 single-shot system is designed for use against tanks, helicopters, landing craft, structures and personnel. It has an 84mm caliber warhead. In early trade on January 21st, the Indian Bombay Stock Exchange Index, the Sensex, dropped over 650 points and the Nifty slipped below the 17,600 mark. Indian equity indices on Bombay Stock Exchange called BSE and the National Stock Exchange called NSE continued their downward curve for the fourth straight day as they opened over 1% lower on 21st January, tracking the weakness in the global market. The BSE stock index, the Sensex, slumped 690.51 points to 58,774.11 in opening deals, while the Nifty 50 declined 194.10 points to 17,562.90. Bajaj Finserv, Wipro, Infosys, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, Tech Mahindra and Sun Pharmaceutical Industries were the top losers in the early trade. Investors hoped for some recovery and were looking forward to the outcome of the December 2021 quarter results of Reliance Industries to be announced later in the day on 21st January. After its amazing response at the box office, Nani and Sai Pallavi starrer Shyam Singh Roy is all set to make its debut on Netflix. Nani and Sai Pallavi starrer Shyam Singh Roy has been released on Netflix on 21st January. The film's production house, Niharika Entertainment, shared the news on Twitter. They captioned the post, "The epic love saga, #Shyam Singh Roy is now streaming on @Netflix India. Grab your popcorns and watch the #blockbuster classic SSR with your loved ones. Natural. @name is Nani, @Sai_Pallavi 92, @I am Kriti Shetty, @Rahul_Sankrityan, @VBoy Annapalli, @Niharika Entertainment, #SSR on Netflix. The film centers around the life of Shyam Singh Roy but with a reincarnation twist. It is a commercial thriller in which Nani essays the role of a revolutionary writer and Sai portrays the role of Devdasi. The film is directed by Rahul Sankrityan. That's all for this bulletin of Daily India Report.
And thank you very much, Himanshu, for that report. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have for you today. And welcome to this week, which will be a short week because of the holiday on the 26th, and of course we know about the 26th that there are so many functions that have been postponed, and tomorrow, if we are able to, we will be getting Shyam Das from the Federation of Indian Communities of Queensland to talk about the proposed virtual Indian Republic Day, because the function that was going to take place at Sunpec has been cancelled. So it will be no in-person function, but we will have the virtual function. So to talk about that and to talk about the upcoming 25th anniversary of the Federation of Indian Communities, tomorrow we will be joined by Shyam Das of the Federation of Indian Communities of Queensland. Well, until tomorrow, it's goodbye from me. It's been wonderful having your company. So, well, as I mentioned before, stay good, stay safe, and of course, if you are eligible, go get your booster, go get it now. Until tomorrow, it's goodbye from me.